Dude, this was so rough. This was so rough. And when those protesters were banging on the doors, I screamed for Mom because I thought it was something else. And I said that last week, guys. I said, what if they off somebody? And now the second the episode started, I was like, and I looked over at my mom, and I think I might have tweeted it, and I was like, what if it's Tom? What if it's Tom because he's the head of ATN? Because at first I thought Kendall, but he went way too Michael Corleone in this episode. And I'll explain that in a minute. But yeah, oh my God, I was worried for Roman. I was like, oh my God, no, I can't take this. I almost walked out of the room. I was like, I can't take this if it's him, if it's Roman right now. I cannot take John Wick, Logan Roy, and Roman Roy all going out in the same year. I can't do it. My tiny notes. I love them calling it church and state, like the separation of church and state, but it's not the separation because they're right there. This really jacked me up too, because if you've been over here, if you've listened to any of my reviews, without the toxicity, Logan Roy, Brian Cox was so much like my uncle who raised me, who abruptly passed, who loved Succession. And I'm Catholic, and so having a big Catholic, like, I knew this. I've been saying Roman's going to break at this funeral because I'm Roman. I'm the one who's closest with the parent. I'm the one who was closest with him. And we are the Joker, and we're funny, and we're pretending we're okay to everybody. We pre-grieved because we're the ones most worried about it. I also lost my father already, and that's why my uncle practically raised me. And I'm like, so I can see it in this character. And man, dude, Kieran Culkin killed it, but Uncle Ewan, damn, James Cromwell, damn, god damn. God damn, that's the guy that was in Babe. Like, I know James Cromwell is a boss. I know this, but how do you dip out? That just shows how good this writing is, and good for you guys striking. I support you. You got more balls than the UAW does, that's for sure. Who do you guys think might bite it? Because now I'm thinking that might be a real big possibility. I really, really do. And then and I love the way they honed in on this. Rava is a queen for getting her kid out of the city. She's absolutely right. And, oh my God, I cannot believe how well this, like I've always said, this is so well done that we can go from a political thriller into a funeral, into, like, it changes up genres, it changes up, like, it's like watching Rocky or a boxing match, but with speaking, and that that is so engaging. We shouldn't care about these billionaires. I shouldn't care about this fictitious campaign, or this fictitious company, or this fictitious election. I shouldn't care about any of it this much, but I do a lot, and it just goes to show the writing. But do you want to know what we can relate to? Families. It doesn't matter if you're in the 1%, if you're in the middle class, or if you're on the poverty line. Family is complicated. Generational trauma is a thing. Like, it doesn't matter. Money doesn't change any of that, and that's why this show is relatable. That's why people like it. That's why it's the best and better than Billions or anything else you can compare it to. But Roman is practicing his speech, and I did like seeing Kendall step up to the plate and cover for his brother. That was nice to see. But yeah, people were all calling Kendall like a great dad like 2 weeks ago on Twitter. And I'm like, I know Twitter's a cesspool, but this man has been so absentee. Like, what are you saying? And it's because he has a jacked up dad relationship. You know what I mean? This is the whole theme of the show, is generational trauma. And that Kendall's relationship with his kids is jacked up. He is not a good father. Screaming at Rava in the street that way is not okay. And I will say this till the cows come home. Since season 1, they have been flipping the gender roles with Tom and Shiv. And she's the one that goes out and wants an open marriage. Normally, that's a male character thing, not a female. She's the one who wants power. That's normally a male character thing, not a female one. Like, Succession does that so well, but specifically with this couple. And that's when I keep seeing, like, I think I say it like this. Tom has done creep things, but I don't think Tom is a total creep. I think Tom is a fish out of water pretending to be a bully that he's not. And him even saying to Shiv in this episode, I said goodbye. I think he meant that shit. I think he meant, like, I wanted to be with him and it was hard on him. I think that he meant that. And there were people around that either married in, and I consider, they're my family, but you know what I mean? That just, or ones that are married in that aren't blood, that stepped up to the plate so much when my uncle passed, that it's like, stuff like that from those people matters at those times. And so seeing Shiv let her guard down and let him go to the apartment, and Tom saying that was nice to see. And this is so relatable on that level too, where it's like, things never go according to plan. Just like in other episodes where it's like, things always happen, and it doesn't matter where it's at, like funny crap like that happens. My sister and me were altar serving one time, and on Christmas Day, full church, she punched me right in the face in front of everybody, and, because I went to grab the book when I shouldn't or something, and I remember turning and I knocked a pew, like a little pew they made over. It was a whole thing. And Father Jeff didn't even blink. He just kept going. But I remember looking over into the crowd, and my grandma was just going, And I was so scared. And oh my gosh, that was the whole thing. But yeah, things never go according to plan. And family is complicated. And it doesn't matter where you fall on the monetary spectrum for that. But man, them walking into that funeral, what were they calling the pallbearers? Wheelers? And Tom's like, I'm a front right wheeler, coffin wheeler or something. I was laughing so hard at that. I posted this on, I think, like on every social media platform I have besides YouTube. It was giving me mad Tywin Lannister funeral when Cersei and Jaime are talking, and he's like, them, outside, they're coming for us. And then Cersei is so fixated on beefing with her family and beefing with Tyrion that it's blinded her. And Jaime's trying to tell her, like, no, he's not the one you need to worry about. It's everybody out there that as soon as they see his dead body, they're coming for us. They're all coming for us. And like I've been saying, you cannot trust, it doesn't matter where you fall on the political spectrum, you cannot fall for this political guy. They are going to turn around and bite the Royce in the ass. Logan didn't respect none of these people. Remember when, before Shiv's wedding, when he makes the deal with Senator Gilliard, and he's like, and Senator Gill's like, should we shake hands? And Logan looks in Dennis' shit and says, I don't think either one of us want to get our hands dirty. Because he knew better. He had them by the balls, and the Roy kids needed to figure that out. So hearing Kendall say that in this episode, I was like, hell yeah, we were talking about that over here, Motor City Nerds. We know all about it, but we don't trust this Mencken. And if you saw him looking at them, everybody was looking at them walking that coffin and like carrying, like they were vultures. That's what they were looking at them like. And Kendall showing strength up there like that. And then making the moves he did at the mausoleum. I love that mausoleum. Sick. I love a mausoleum. And that was just, oh my God. I loved it. Loved that. So cool. Awesome. But I thought it was really telling when they said Logan didn't want to go in the ground. And it's like, oh, we just found out about you being in the ship under, having to be in a small, cramped space. The idea of underground must have really bothered you. And it's like, damn, dude. Damn. But my other favorite little Easter egg from going to that tomb, I'm like, oh my God, of course Logan's going out like a pharaoh. Of course he is. Rightfully so. Was when they brought up Ozymandias. Now, if you only know Ozymandias from Watchmen, it's a poem. And rereading that poem, you can interpret it in many different ways. But it's basically about, like, no matter how far you've come, no matter how many statues you build of yourself, no matter what, death comes for all of us eventually. That's the one thing we all get hit by. Big, small, weak, strong, it don't matter. Logan already, I mean, his son's name is Romulus. If you don't have Roman, I mean, come on now. Empirical much. What he collected medals. He was always very about history, generals, things like that. He was all about that already. But so when they say the Ozymandias, you could just look at it as a throwaway thing. But if you reread the poem, it's like, damn, dude, this is like heavy. Just Logan. It's a whole thing about Logan. Also, yes, Ozymandias is my favorite in The Watchmen. I don't know what that says about me. Kendall's Michael Corleone moment is when he's making moves with Hugo at the mausoleum. Like, damn, dude, that was when I really saw it, because I was like, who's really gonna take over here? And then when they did that, I was like, oh, you're making moves at the funeral? Okay, Michael, at the baptism. Okay, Michael, at the funeral. Okay, Michael, I see you. You're taking over. Oh, I've been saying this since before I started my channel. Jess, the assistant, Kendall has been treating her a certain kind of way where she's always like, for a minute he was very dismissive of her, and I was waiting for her to get sick of his shit. And she's been lurking around with Greg a lot, if you've noticed in the background. So her wanting to dip out, and I think she's genuinely like, I would have stuck this out, but this is getting way too scary for me. And I think she's being smart. But I think Jess is probably the person Kendall is most worried about dipping out. Oh my God, do you want to know what was really gut-wrenching? Was the mom knowing Shiv was pregnant and saying the things she was saying. Damn, dude. But what about the iconic women that were banging Logan all sitting in the front row, and then Marcia putting her hand out to Carrie? Damn. And oh my God, Caroline, queen of petty. So good. That was so good. That was so damn good. But that's what I mean. Like, if you've been at these situations with your siblings, you've said something like this. I love when they said, when Roman walked up to Kendall and goes, so who'd you hit? Meaning, like, who'd you go up and already talk to at the funeral? You know you've said stuff like that to your siblings. Like, okay, so who's over there talking to whoever? Because I don't remember their name. Or whatever it is. And then when their mom comes in and Shiv said, are we freezing her out? Or what are we doing here? And it's like, we've all done things, maybe not with the severity of this or whatever, but we've all done things like that with our family or our siblings. And I really enjoyed that part of it because relatable. I thought having Greg ride the bike to the funeral and Tom not showing was a big tell. And like I've always said, Greg is never once ever fully committed to going against the family. I think Greg will be okay, but he got put on Ewan duty, and Roman was like, don't let him speak. I know Kieran Culkin killed it. That was so hard, and that was super hard for me. I'm telling you guys, I was bawling like a baby. But when Ewan got up, and when Greg said, "What do you want me to do? Take his legs out from under him?" That was the funniest. I laughed so hard at that. But when he started talking about everything, I've talked at length about wanting to hear Logan's backstory and how we didn't know what happened with the sister, but we knew he blamed himself for it and all this stuff. And they just summed up a whole character in a 4-minute thing. In like a 4-minute thing, they just gave us so much. They just dumped so much on us. Do you know how hard that is to do? Do you know how talented you have to be? This strike, man, this Succession alone should be showing people, like, we should not give a shit about this billionaire family. And we're all like, oh my God. And that's why, because we can relate to this shit. And then it gets to the crazy stuff, and we're like, we can't relate to, like, riding on yachts, but we can relate to, like, I'm beefing with my family, and I'm not really talking to my sister, or whatever it is. Oh, I loved Shiv telling her brothers about her pregnancy, to have some levity to the situation in the beginning. That was nice. I really liked that. But yeah, Ewan hopping up there, talking about everything that Logan went, like, I'm not even gonna get into it, because it was all explained. It was all explained. And I had been speculating, and I was saying how interesting it was, and I would have liked to know more about it, but no, it was all summed up like, damn, dude. And damn, James Cromwell, Jesus, you dip out for like a season and a half, and then you come back and hit us with that? Jesus Christ. Oh my God, what did you say to Greg? I'm not making a scene, Greg, you are. I was like, oh. Do you want to know what else I noticed rewatching it? Ewan is the only one to ever put a hand on Logan, and Logan not do nothing about it. It's on the Thanksgiving episode, and he pushes him in the shoulder like this, and Logan just looks down, and then they're both looking at each other. It's the only person that Logan has allowed to ever touch him in the entire series so far, like, at all. And I was like, damn, that. But my brother's a lot of things. He's an ex-Scot. He's an ex-Canadian. He's an ex-human being. But he's still my brother. Damn, like, that says something. And that's why I'm like, Greg learned that from his grandpa. That's something that is a common thread here. And Greg might be an idiot. Greg might be a dummy. Greg might screw up. But he's never fully committed to ever going against the family completely. Go back and rewatch it. Never fully. He might have dipped a toe here and there, but he's never fully gone against the family. But yeah, Roman, oh my God, Roman going up. Yeah, I can't, I'm going to cry again. It's going to be like it's going to be like when I started crying in House of the Dragon reviews and I had to stop. God, that literally, that took me like 3 hours to record because I could not stop crying. And that's what's going to happen if I start doing it now. Because I was waiting for it. If you've watched any of my reviews, you know I've been talking about this. I was like, Roman's going to have the breakdown at the funeral, and that's me. And I didn't even go. They were like, oh yeah, we're going to go to the burial. I was like, I ain't going to no burial. Yeah, no, not today. Not today. Nope. No, I'm not doing it. I've done, nope. No. Uncle wouldn't have wanted me there anyway. He would have been like, Abby, do what you want. Abby, I'm not there. That's what he would have said. My dad and him would have been like, we're chilling. It's fine. You're good. I went to everything. I couldn't go to the burial. I couldn't do that shit. Roman's having his breakdown and Kendall's stepping up to the plate the way he does. And the way he takes Roman's speech, but makes it his own and lets them know, like, don't forget, we're still the Roys. Just because he's gone doesn't mean we are. And he brings up his siblings, and my mom is very adamant that she thinks Shiv is going to hurt them. And I'm like, no, I think when Roman's breakdown happened, something clicked in all of them that was like, we need to stop fighting amongst ourselves and come together now. And I think that's why Shiv asked Carl and Frank about her dad. I think that explains a lot. And I do. I think eventually it's going to be a come together thing. I also think that Lucas Matson is not as crazy eccentric as he's been playing it off to be. Yeah. I think he's more... I think that he wants them to think he's some crazy lunatic who's doing crazy stuff. And maybe he's not doing all of that. Because he was acting... But then again, if you are a sociopath, you just act how the room does. So, I don't know. I also thought it was interesting the way they kind of brought up... I think Madsen and Mencken were essentially just making a joke out of Shiv towards the end of their conversation. That's how I personally took it. Because Madsen was already, like, kind of putting down the fact that she was pregnant and things of that nature. Let me tell you what, I've watched pregnant ladies work the assembly line for months, dude. Like, don't underestimate ladies, dude. But, yeah... he was kind of putting a negative connotation on that, and Mencken was, and then, so I think they're like, look at us in cahoots now, and we're going to screw the Roy family, and I'm hoping that Shiv gets with the program, and I think she will, but Mom does not believe that. Mom thinks that Shiv is going to be on the outs, and that is another thing that makes me think it might be. If you kill Tom, it's not as impactful because it's not a Roy, but I don't want it to be a Roy. I really don't. But I'm like, I don't think it'll be Kendall. Because like I said, we have that Michael Corleone flip happening. And then I'm like, I don't know if they do Shiv because she's pregnant. Or Connor's not that big of a player. And then there's Roman, but he made it through the end of this episode. So I'm like, maybe they won't off somebody. But if they do, it would make sense to be Tom. Because he's the head of ATN. And they called it. And now I'm concerned. And because at first when I said that in the last review, I was like, no. But they could. Like, thematically, it would make sense. Just like how I was saying with Kendall last season. And then I'm like, well, I didn't think Kendall would die, but I was like, I think there's going to be a suicide attempt or something along those lines. And I was really concerned about that. But now I'm worried about this. I'm like, oh. The second the episode started, I was like, oh, man, Tom, I'm worried about you. So now I'm really concerned about Tom. But, man, Mattson is playing it off like he really doesn't like this Mencken. But then, like I said, I just got a vibe that was saying, like, well, we're in cahoots. Let's go for her. And I saw this on Twitter. I didn't come up with this, but I was thinking that would be genius, is if they pick Adrian Brody's character. And then you have this Jewish American CEO. And it makes you not look as bad. But Adrian Brody's character seemed like a decent human being. So it's like, I don't know if they would pick him, but I would love to see him come back. I would love to see him come back because it's Adrian Brody. He's great. He's great. Remember, but they only talked to him the one time. And I think the reason he wasn't in it as much was because of the pandemic. So why wouldn't you use Adrian Brody? But I thought that was a really good take. I really liked that. I was like, oh, that'd be interesting to bring back around. I would really like that. But we still have, I liked seeing Stewie back for the next episode. But yeah, there's a lot of things. I really truly do believe that the Royce came together in this. Even Shiv with Tom. All signs point to that for me. Now, Mom's a little harder to sway. But I'm thinking all the Roys make it and Tom might not. And I'm thinking Cousin Greg is going to be high up in the company. I think he might be COO. I think it might be Kendall and Greg. I think Rowan might want to back out farther, but I think we'll make it. But he was just having a mental breakdown at the end. He just would rather fight somebody than deal with himself. That's what was going on. Like, and it was sad. Like, it wasn't funny. It wasn't one of those funny moments that is ridiculous and over the top swearing and stuff. It was sad. It was a breakdown. I loved Kendall and Roman talking at the end, and Kendall finally getting it of, like, we need to have them by the dick. Like, no. And that's what I've been saying this whole time. And I loved Shiv saying that to Mencken about, my dad didn't have no political ideology favor. And that's what I was saying about the Calling It episode. I was like, Logan would never do this. He would never be on the floor like this. He didn't do that. He didn't get that involved with things like that. He always said that. He was like, I know what people want, but I don't push my people like that. I let them do their thing, and they're not doing that, and they need to learn how to do that. But Kendall telling Hugo to watch the Shiv situation, telling Roman about the Shiv situation, I'm just hoping that Shiv comes to it on her own or uses it as a way to maneuver against and help her brothers on her own accord. Because I love Shiv as a character, and I don't want to see us hate her in the end. But I really do. I think God damn, this episode was rough. Like, I don't even know what to say, but those are my predictions. Are possible Tom death, all the Roys make it, all of them come together against this craziness. Oh my God, it was so sad. Like, but no, none of us should care, but it was so sad. It was so sad. And this episode really did solidify it. At first I thought maybe they won't sweep the Emmys. And now after that episode, I'm like, no. They're sweeping the Emmys, and they're sweeping the Emmys for sure. Dear God. Dear God. The acting in this was so good. The writing in this is so good. This is probably the best show I've seen in over a decade. Definitely. This is probably the best since Breaking Bad. Like, writing-wise, I think. I'd argue that. And I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. Succession, man. I remember seeing the first commercial for it back right before Game of Thrones ended. Well, no, it would have been like a year or two before Game of Thrones ended, right? Like a year before it. And it was its first promo, and I was like, whatever that is going to fill the Game of Thrones hole in my heart. I can tell. And that's exactly what it is. That's what I always told people before they started watching it. I was like, imagine if Tywin Lannister ran a company today, except it's Brian Cox, and it's hilarious, and it's great, and it's the best thing I've ever seen. And it's either for you or it's not.